Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about NFL quarterback outliers. This has been a subject that I know a lot of people have asked for. I've done a lot of NFL draft bust analytics videos, where I talk about guys who became bust. But there's been some people that wanted to see outliers in the data. They wanted to see players who didn't hit all the numbers but went on to become very successful. And I think there was two main quarterbacks I really wanted to talk about today, and I think fit into this theme around a quarterback coach and an former NFL head coach by the name of Mike Holmgren is the main connection between these two people. And the players I'm going to be talking about today is Brett Favre and Matt Hasselbeck. Both these players have unique ties to Mike Holmgren. Brett Favre obviously is the more talented and the more successful version of what Mike Holmgren was able to do with him. But this is just a general talk about NFL, the quarterback data that I use. And again, I really don't have anything to hide. When I talk about my data, when I talk about my statistics, I will flat out tell you who the outliers are. I will tell you who are the handful of players that have been successful. But the thing is that's it. It's a handful of players. It's not scattershot. If you are going to be a very good NFL quarterback, you're more likely going to be someone who does really well statistically in college versus someone who doesn't do well statistically in college. So to start out, and if you're new to the channel, new to the work that I do, you can check the description. But starting out with Brett Favre, in terms of his quarterback data in college, he was just not that great in college. He had his first year in 1987 was bad. It was terrible. 11.81 out of 100 was his quarterback score that year. 1988 was probably his best season in college. He had a 56.58 score. And then 1989 had a 57, and then he had a 35.57 to end his career in 1990. So Brett Favre's career was never amazing in college. It was just not much to really write home about. And based on his statistics, he had the chance to become an NFL starter more so than what he became. And of course, when you look at his NFL data, he had really great highs, obviously. I think the best statistical seasons for him was 1995, 2001, and 2009. But, he went on to become a Hall of Fame quarterback, so there's no discounting what he did in his career. But you can definitely see the inconsistency in his career, and I think his data really does speak to that even though he is a quarterback that had some really high highs in his career, he also had some really low lows, and he's someone who definitely is a transcendent talent. But again, there's only one Brett Favre. That's what I try to tell people more often than not. Is there's only one Brett Favre, and to say that this guy's the next Brett Favre, this is the guy that's going to buck the trend. Some people have said that Patrick Mahomes is Brett Favre, but Patrick Mahomes had 80 plus percentile scores when he was in college. So, the thing is that nobody really can be the next Brett Favre unless they fit the definition of what he is statistically, which is someone who was pretty much average to below average when he played in college. And then, of course, under the coaching of Mike Holmgren, went on to become very successful. Because the thing is, Brett Favre didn't become a starter right away. He was on the Atlanta Falcons, and he was sent to the Packers. I mean, they pretty much didn't want to have anything to do with him, and then he finally got some success there. So just keep that in mind. Brett Favre is definitely a Hall of Famer, but he's someone that, statistically speaking, should not have been a Hall of Famer, and he's someone who, in many ways, his career kind of showcased the inconsistencies. There's a difference between Brett Favre and a Peyton Manning. There's a difference between a Brett Favre and a Tom Brady. There's just a difference between those types of players. And yes, Brett Favre is great, but there's a difference. There's a difference between him and these other sort of Hall of Famers, or at least potential Hall of Famers. Peyton Manning and Tom Brady aren't in the Hall of Fame yet, but they're going to be. But there's just a difference between those types of players. There's a difference between Joe Montana and Brett Favre. There's just a difference between the consistency that they had in their career. And then, of course, we get to Matt Hasselbeck, of course. When you look at his career in Boston College, bad, below average in 1996. And then, of course, he just had an average season in 1997. And then, of course, he goes on to have a couple of really good, solid years from 2002 to 2005. Has one last kind of hurrah year in 2007, and then kind of all over the place. And didn't really even start until he was 26 years old, which is sort of another sort of marker. So he had to be developed, and I think that's the biggest thing that I want to put out there, that you're never going to find a player who was a below-average quarterback in college, or just kind of a near-do-well quarterback in college, who doesn't need to have some development before it becomes successful. Even Brett Favre, if you just look at him statistically in the NFL, if you go back to the statistical stuff that I showed you, he didn't hit his 90th percentile, 81st percentile season as soon as he started. It took him a couple years of development. It took him a couple years of development, and he just happened to have the extra stuff that really can't be measured to get through that, and of course the great coaching of Mike Holmgren, because that's the thing, is Mike Holmgren, obviously a protege of Bill Walsh in terms of, well, not really a protege, but under the tutelage of Bill Walsh, who's one of the best quarterback coaches in NFL history. He learned under him. When you look at the coaching staff that Mike Holmgren had, now this is a picture of Mike Holmgren's staff back in 1992. You can see some of the people here. John Gruden is at the very top. Andy Reid, who would have another quarterback kind of similar to Brett Favre, and Donovan McNabb is in there. And then, of course, you look at what Mike Holmgren was able to do with his coaching and with his team. He was able to develop quarterbacks, and I think that's just the bottom line. Is if there does become a quarterback prospect who comes in the future, and you think that this guy is going to be the next greatest, the next greatest Brett Favre, and he has all this physical talent, does he have the quarterback coaches? Does he have the quarterback coaching necessary to get that out of him? And if he doesn't have that, that's where I would kind of question that analogy. So, this is not trying to discount anything or, whatever, but I'm just saying that these are the NFL quarterback outliers. These are all the quarterbacks who were average to below average in the statistics that went on to become, fairly successful quarterbacks. Obviously, Brett Favre a lot more than Matt Hasselbeck. But I just wanted to get that out there to get you guys to understand my point of view that, yes, Brett Favre did go on to become a Hall of Famer, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't inconsistent. It doesn't mean that he didn't need some time to develop. And it's just kind of showing you that even though he did become as successful as he did, you could still see some of the markers or some of the tendencies that he had in college, which led to some of the issues that he had at the NFL level that he never really got over. Namely like interceptions, those other types of things. Again, thank you so much for listening to the video. You can follow my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at JimMetrics. If you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. Hit that notification bell in case you want to be reminded when another video of mine drops, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.